Hi, everybody. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're here for Motivation Monday, and I have a few things to talk about today. Just a few, nothing overwhelming, unlike my schedule, which is very overwhelming. It's funny because I see a delay on the actual iPad that I'm watching on to answer questions and to say hello to everybody. And so it's kind of funny that, I don't know, to see yourself, it's just always kind of funny to watch that. So today is Monday. We are almost through June. We have one more Monday in June. And um I can't believe that it is we're halfway through 2024. It just does not seem that time can go by that quickly. Um I don't know. As we get older, time does go by faster for sure. And I am just amazed, and it's also kind of a funny thing for us as designers because we are always working so far ahead. I'm already working on designs that will be launched next summer. Well, they'll be launched this year, but they won't land in stores until next summer. And that's just mind boggling to me. I'm already like halfway through 2025. And so for us, dates are, always kind of fluid because we're always working so far ahead. But I still, think, and this has been such a weird year as well because we, I usually get my flowers all planted by the end of May. The rule for our area is to you can start planting Mother's Day weekend. Well, we still had a lot of frost, and in fact, this last week we got a frost advisory, and I got up this morning and it was still like pretty chilly out there. So that typically does not happen this time of year, and so that just seemed um, a little nuts too. Because I thought, I hope it's not that frosty because I've already planted most of my flowers. I just have a few pots left on the side of my barn to get planted, and then all of the planting are done. So Aldo says hello. Hello, Aldo. So hopefully everybody can hear me. And the quote for today for motivation comes from Martin Luther King Jr. I actually did a whole report on him in one of my classes in college, and sort of his philosophy came originally his nonviolent resistance philosophy for everything came from Gandhi, but the way that he approached everything and he was able to use that was inspiring. But the quote, which we all have probably heard a lot of quotes from him about a lot of things, but I think this is just really good for inspiration. And you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And I think about that a lot because sometimes we don't even know where that staircase is going to go, right? Uh, I think about that this week because I'm going to uh, publish my 500th pattern. 500 patterns that I've published. That just seems so insane. I'm going to launch it with maybe a sale and do something special for it. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Um, but publishing 500 patterns has got to be some sort of milestone, and I'm going to treat it that way I uh, released my first pattern in December of 2018. And I talk about this in my trunk shows a lot, um, because probably most of you wouldn't know that that was my quilt because it had a lot of hand embroidery, a bunch of different wrapped stitches, and all of that. But there are some things that are still true about that pattern, and it's called Little Things, is that I use bright colors. There was a quote involved, and a lot of texture, and it also showcased my long arm quilting a lot. And how I got into quilting was actually through hand embroidery. It really is my first love, and I learned how to embroider, and then I had all of these little stitcheries, and I needed to figure out how to put them together. So, but my 500th pattern, if you would have told me back in 2018 when I launched my first pattern that I would eventually have 500 plus patterns, I wouldn't have believed you, because well, for so many things. I don't think many people have 500 patterns, for one thing. For two, I didn't know what I didn't know. Just like this quote, you don't have to see the whole staircase because, first of all, maybe you don't know how many steps there are in that staircase. Maybe you don't know exactly where that staircase leads. And you just have to take the first step and see where the journey takes you. And what I've learned along the way is that creativity builds on creativity. So as I'm playing and designing with designs, sometimes a secondary design comes up, or maybe I'm designing a design specifically for a line of fabric because I didn't know when I started this that I would be a pattern partner. I didn't even know what that was. Working with pattern companies, or I mean, sorry, fabric companies, and they give you the swatches of fabric before they launch it, and then you design patterns. So if you have a pattern in your catalog that works well with their line, then you can just do a digital mock-up of that. But sometimes I do design patterns specifically for a line of fabric. So I wouldn't have known all of that when I took that first step into pattern design. And I've been published probably in about close to or over 100 magazine publications. I used to do a ton of magazine work. Now I'm in a couple a year. And in fact, right now I am in the current issue of American Patchwork and Quilting. I have a quilt in there called Applesauce. Oh, I should have brought it out. I have the quilt or the magazine. So here's the current issue. If you'd like to see that, and I'll kind of show the quilt. It's just a wall hanging made from scraps, and it's really cute. It's called Red Delicious in the magazine, and there you go. I made it from scraps as well, and so I'll kind of tell you the story behind that. My family makes fun of me because we lived in Central Washington, which is pretty much apple country. It used to be the apple capital of the world. I think maybe another. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There's a bountiful blessing of apples and pears and different kinds of fruit in Central Washington. They are known for that. And we were able to get a bunch of free apples when my youngest daughter was not even 2 years old. And I learned how to can, and I made all sorts of apple juice, applesauce, any sort of apple recipe I would Google, and I would can and preserve that. And I had dozens and dozens of jars of applesauce, and we ate it at every meal. We were pretty poor, always trying to stretch the budget, and we ate applesauce all of the time. Well, my kids make fun of me for that, and it's a story that goes down in history of, oh my gosh, no more applesauce. But I kind of think that they are actually over it by now because, some of them are approaching 30. But, anything that we could do to save a few dollars, fill their bellies, and um, survive with 6 kids, that's just a thing that happens. And, um and Rooster Quilter says 500 patterns is truly noteworthy. Thank you. Yes, I believe that that is really a big accomplishment, and I didn't set out to do that. I didn't think, any of those things, but as you just continue in the grind, that is kind of what happens. And especially in the beginning, because designing patterns is pretty, I would say, competitive. It's hard to break into the industry. You have to have a social media following, which I didn't have when I started. I really have never wanted to be on social media or in front of a camera or any of those things. I am pretty, I'm an introvert for the most part. And I'm a really strong worker bee. I like to be behind the scenes working. But in order to have a successful business and put out 500 patterns, you have to stretch yourself and grow. And I talk about that a lot because I do make myself learn new things and do new things, even if I don't like to do it, just because I know it's good for me and I have to do that. You have to do that in everyday life, whether you have a business or not. And I think the other thing about me and my personality is always setting goals and learning new things. I think that I have some sort of ADD. I don't know, like I have not been diagnosed, but I've just learned to channel it in a way that I'm always learning something new in my life, and I always kind of like dive in, feet first. I start to research everything. I was a really good college student because I always loved to learn something new. And I really think that I could have been a full time college student and just made that my job because I just took a lot of extra classes that I didn't need just because I wanted to learn something about that subject. And I think homesteading and that sort of thing, and the quilting business, because there is always something new to learn for me, um, keeps me challenged and it keeps me focused. And I can always set new goals. And I do that in quilting in my business all the time. And I think that that's why I've held this job the longest, because there is always a new challenge for me to figure out. You know, I started as a long arm quilter, then I graduated to a pattern designer, then I graduated to a fabric designer. Now I'm graduating to YouTube and trying to figure out filming and, all of those things. And there's also new piecing techniques and new things to learn along the way with all of that. And um, there's also a graduation in learning about pattern design, and not everything necessarily that I design. Um, some things I put out just because I love it and I want to put that out into the universe, and then other things I put out because I know it will sell well commercially, and I love it. I love, love, love it when I put something out just because I love it and I think that it's not going to do well commercially, and then it does. That just makes everything in my heart like pitter patter and explode a little, because that happens so rarely that it really does make my heart sing. Um, so Sherry says hi. Hi, Sherry. And she says I'm correct. So I don't know what I was correct about, but hopefully about everything I said. So, and she says I'm doing fabulous. Thank you. So with that, um, and so my 500th pattern will come out this week, and then I already have so many others that have come out. So the other thing that I was going to say about that is the other reason I probably have 500 patterns is honestly the pandemic. I was a new designer and I was trying to be seen didn't have the social media following, but I knew I was a good worker bee and I could sew a sample faster than anybody I know. And so I decided, I only had one child left at home and she was going to college and working full time at our local fast food restaurant because they didn't have enough workers. And so she did that because it was just a small family owned business in our small town. And my husband was an essential worker. And that year, he only got 2 days off and he was working anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day because, again, they didn't have workers. And he was part of the food chain. So he really had to show up to work. And I just thought, I don't have anything else to do in my life. I don't have anybody here to take care of other than my dogs. And I'm just going to put out as many patterns as I possibly can so that someone has to see me. And I think that year I put out, it was like 97 or 98 patterns in one year. So the last couple years have not been that. I haven't put out that many in a one year, but those first couple years during the pandemic, I did and it really did work. Having all of those patterns did sort of get me on the map and start building my portfolio. It got me into several fabric companies so that I could design for them, and that is how I got my foot in the door. So nothing extraordinary, just a lot of hard work, showing, um, doing. I think that it comes down to the basics for me is that I did a lot of hard work. I did what I said I would do. I met my deadlines, and I think I was just professional, and that's really what got me into the door. I think a lot of people think about things or maybe stress about different things and how they're going to do it, but I just did what I was good at doing, which was putting my nose to the grindstone and just working and being professional. So let's see who's here. Lynn Lockard says, "Good morning. Good morning, Lynn." Odie says, "Good morning. Good morning." Ellie says, "Good morning." And Faith says, "Hi." Hi, Faith. And um, so the other good news, I my schedule is a little overwhelming this week. I say that every week, I think, but um, we are so other than my 500th pattern, we are doing Father's Day dinner tonight. We didn't last night. Rob had the day off and he really did take the whole day off. He didn't like take care of the chickens or the animals or anything. He made me do absolutely everything myself. I let him, that's fine. Um, but our kids are coming over for dinner tonight, and so that's always a fun thing. We have our baby shower for our first grandbaby on Sunday, so we'll be racing to that after church because it's sort of a brunch thing. So they're coming over tonight to grab a bunch of eggs because they're making a bunch of casseroles, and they need our roasting pans. We have such a big family that I have we make soup or any big dish in roasting pans. So they'll come over and get those. And I have other good news. I'm so excited. They didn't tell me I couldn't share it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I just want to thank all of my fans and people who wrote into Quilt Folk. They are coming to Washington State, and from what I've gathered, several people wrote to them and told them about me and the Pink Barn, and they are coming here to interview me and take pictures of the barn and some of my work. So that is super exciting. I'm thinking, do I hire like a professional cleaner to come in and get everything sort of cleaned up for me? I have no idea. But regardless, if I don't hire someone, I have to do it myself. And do I have time? I don't know, um but I'm going to do that. I know that they do such a beautiful job with their photography and everything. So I'm very excited to see what all of this looks like from their point of view. but that is super exciting. And let's see. Venetia says hi. Hi, Venetia. Um, Roger says good morning. And Lynn says congratulations. Thank you. So we have that. And so another thing is that we love the chickens being out free ranging. But they're destroying my rhubarb plants and they're poisonous. So they shouldn't be eating those, but they are. I had them out just this morning and I had to put them back in because they already destroyed two of the plants that I had been rehabbing from the last time. And so we have to figure out how we're going to protect them. But my husband was just going to put chicken wire over the garden, and I won't let him do that because then it looks terrible. I don't like that. So we have to get some sort of decorative fencing or something to put around them so we can let them free range. They don't bother my potted flowers or anything, but they just annihilate my rhubarb, and I love my rhubarb plants, and we make a lot from that. In fact, we make a rhubarb huckleberry crisp. Um, and I try to, there's a man in our church that goes and hunts huckleberries. He knows all the like spots that they grow wild here, and he goes and gets them and sells them at market. So we buy a bunch and put them in our freezer, and then I freeze a bunch of rhubarb through the winter so that through we have some through the winter as well. And I can some rhubarb things during the summer and whatnot. But I am at a loss as to how to keep the chickens out of the rhubarb. So, um, anyways, but one of our favorite desserts is this rhubarb crisp, and it is so delicious. And I know that not everybody knows what huckleberries are because it's something that grows wild here in the Pacific Northwest, from what I've gathered. We've just always had them. So, but they're a berry and they are pretty popular here. The local restaurants make pies and jams and sell them. Milkshakes is like my husband loves a huckleberry milkshake. So, um, so I have to figure that out. So if anybody has any ideas about keeping chickens out of the garden, I would love that. And Ellie says, I had to stop free ranging our flock. They destroy my flower beds. Have the hubs make a chicken tractor for them. Oh, yeah, I think that's I keep talking about that because there's actually a family in North Idaho that has these plans, free plans that they put out on their website for these huge A-frame chicken tractors. So they would actually, one would fit all of our chickens because we don't have the big flock that they have. And we have such a huge field. And I think that we need to really build them a chicken tractor because they would totally love it, and it would still provide them shade and all of that. So that's a really good idea. So, um, let's see what else. And Lynn says, I love rhubarb pie. We do too. We love strawberry rhubarb pie. My daughter and I, that's our favorite thing. And in fact, we make it. And last year at her college graduation, we went to a restaurant and bought a Sherry's. It's like in town, not our town, but Spokane. And so I bought a few pies thinking, and then we were all like so disappointed because there was like nothing in their filling. We were like, what? So they're like, we have to home make all of our strawberry rhubarb pies because we actually have fruit and rhubarb in the filling. It's not just sugar and whatever, but we absolutely love it. And Donna says, hi, Charisma. Hi, Donna. And Rooster Quilter says, love Quilt Folk and so happy they will come interview you. I'm like really excited. Venetia says, huckleberry whipped honey, so good on bread. Oh, I'm gonna have to try that. We did do. There's a local person here that sells huckleberry butter, and I've made like raspberry butter and that. But I thought about making some huckleberry butter just because my husband and I love huckleberries. I don't know, they're kind of a little bit tart, but if you get them later in the year, they're really sweet. And so I like the tart ones for like baking and whatnot. But I would say There may be a little bit of a cross between, like, maybe a blackberry. They're not shaped the same way. They're kind of shaped like a gooseberry or, a blueberry kind of, but, they're a cross between, like, maybe a blueberry and a blackberry as far as taste, but not really. I mean, they have their own kind of distinct flavor and, um but they do have that purpley red, color. So when you mix them into everything, it's kind of a purple, not so much as blueberry, but a little bit more red. So, but so good. And so, other than quilt folk, baby shower, Father's Day, the chickens, 500 pattern, I have to type my newsletter today. I am getting some videos prepped for, or getting some blogs prepped for videos. So I'll be doing a lot of filming this week. And I have some quilts that I have to get quilted. I have a ton of uh, edge to edge for the computer, but I'm also part of that is I am doing every year for my church. I have a small church, mind you. There's like less than 50 people. I think there's actually less than 40 people that go. And so I make sure that all of the veterans have quilts. And so last year we did the presentation on like Memorial Day weekend. This year we're going to do it on the 30th, which is right before 4th of July weekend. And so, because we have some new people that are attending that are veterans, and so thankfully there was a gal at church who helped me sew one of the tops. I'm getting them quilted, and then my friend Andrew Lee, the some of you might know him as the combat quilter. He does a lot for Quilts of Valor and veterans quilts, and he has a plethora of patriotic fabric, and he quilts one Quilt of Valor quilt a day. That's his mission for every single day. And for those of you who don't know his story, you should go and friend him. And especially if veterans are um, on your heart, because he has survived 3 tours of duty. He has suffered multiple injuries, and he discovered through his process of dealing with PTSD that sewing and quilting really helped with his therapy. And so then he has incorporated that into his life, working with veterans and sewing and quilting. And so, anyways, whenever I need a few extra quilt tops, he comes to the rescue. So he's still doing rescue work. And he also gave me some quilt tops so that I can get them quilted and bound and present them to my vets at church. And so just a shout out to Pam, who helped me piece, and to Andrew, who sent me some quilt tops. I will be sure getting those done and labeling them with credit to everybody. And I just want to thank you for helping me and my small community award those, because veterans and military service members are close to my heart. My husband served in the military, both of my grandfathers, and I have a cousin too, and I made sure that he had a quilt. So uh, just an important thing for our freedoms, and I don't take that lightly, because I'm a woman in America, and honestly, I live the American dream. I grew up with nothing, part of the system, and I was able to grow up, have a good family, and own my own business and own property, car, all of those good things that some women can't say in other countries. So, really good thing. And Donna B says, is it possible to take the camera and walk around your whole studio for those who haven't seen it? And Roger says, good idea, Donna. And Donna says, thanks, Roger. Okay, sure. I think I can do that. But of course, he would ask today because it's kind of messy, but I'm just gonna show you the real life thing, and I hope that you guys I mean, I'll be carrying it, so I hope I'm not, like, giving you, um, motion sickness, but I'll do my best, okay? So let me get the phone, and I will do that. Okay, let me okay. Okay, so that's the view that you saw before, and this is my sewing/video room. So if I go over here, that's my design wall, which are some tiles that I got from Amazon, and I love it. I can put a whole quilt on there, everything. They come in various sizes, and so this is part of my mess. So that is my ironing table, honestly, and it has a bunch of videos that I'm um, prepping, blocks that I'm prepping for some videos. This is my sewing area, and you can see what a mess that is. And this right here, this is going to be so fun for me. Honestly, it's going to be fun. I love this sort of thing, but those are all the blocks that I have sewn for YouTube videos, just those single blocks, and I want to put them into a few improv quilts, so I've been saving them um, for that. And Lynn says, if you ever need help with the quilts of Valor, please remember me. Yes, absolutely. Email me. Venetia says, my mom and I made 3 quilts of Valor this year so far, working on our 4th now. Last year we did several too. It's such a great cause. I love that. And Donna says, we don't care about the mess. It's work. Yes, it is work. So here is my bookshelves in my studio. That right there is where I keep 1 copy of each of the magazines I've been published in. Those are my books because I'm just like everybody else where I have um, books for everything. So everything in the studio, I were gifts from somebody or something important because I want to be surrounded by things that I love and um, things that tell stories and uh, to be reminded of all the nice things that people do for me. I don't take any of that for granted. So this, we're walking out of my sewing room, and you'll see over here that is an old antique card catalog. It actually holds my thread. So you can see in there, there's a different color for each thread. Um, this is my kit cutting station. So I do a lot of my shipping, receiving here. This is where I cut kits to that I sell on my website. That's a window that looks out to my chicken coop currently. And that's a little stitchery, cross stitchery made by my friend Amy. She sent that to me and made it for the barn when we were building it, which I find so special. And all of these things are gifts that were sent, and those um, fabric, my line of fabric. Um, this is an old filing cabinet. It's all metal and on my extra ironing board. And I keep magazines in there because I'm just like you. And those are my shipping boxes. And a batting closet. So it looks really messy right now, but I keep my rolls of batting in there and then boxes that I need to ship things back. Here is where my long arms are. So you can see that I have some long arms on right now that I'll be doing today. And this is um, an old headboard that has been converted into a bench. And then one of my friends and quilting customers had given me that quilt that I could cut up and make into cushions for that. So one of my favorite things. And those are the front doors to the barn. This is old barn doors that we saved from when we converted the barn. This is my kind of seating area where I do stitching. My lunch from the other day, which were Cheez-It crackers. So, that is an old thread hoarder I kind of holder. The man who had it in his shop, because it's originally from like the 1800s, he had cut out all the spindles, but I just keep like candle wax and different tools and things in it. And I have a stack of quilts there. That's my little drone because we're going to do some stuff. So I'm getting it charged. That's also a um, stall door that I wanted to frame into the wall originally because you can see into my sewing room from that, but I had them frame in a window and then we hung that over the um, window because it would make that room not soundproof. And then the chandelier, I had that before we started construction on the barn. Our local beekeeper had that and she was getting rid of it. So I quilted a quilt for her in exchange. And um, another barn door. And then if you come over here, this is the staircase my husband built to go into the loft upstairs. So I'll take you up there and show you what that looks like. This area is where I keep my personal stash. So that is fabric. That's my wool stash, which a big chunk of that came from Faith. She got a bunch of that wool for me for free. So crazy. She finds the best deals. I don't know how. And then um, my printers because we print, fold, and bag all of the patterns. And my row of vintage sewing machines. And so this pink one I painted because it was actually my very first sewing machine. And I sewed on that for years and years and years. And I didn't take care of it. I got it when I was in my early 20s, and I think I didn't really realize the journey, but honestly, it was so well loved and used. I had to paint it to preserve it. And um, some of my other stash, my desk where the magic happens, and a little sewing area for when I feel like I don't want to be working and I can just sew without um, feeling pressure. And then this chicken that Faith and Roger brought me for the open house, isn't she cute? Oh my gosh. Um, I look at her every day because she's just so adorable. And so this is going down the stairs. And I'll tell you that pink quilt on the wall right there is one of my favorite quilts. So Donna B is on our chat today, and she was with me when I got that because in 2017 we walked the 89 miles of Hadrian's Wall in England, and we only had backpacks, so it's not like I could have a bunch of souvenirs. But we happened to go to a flea market, and they had that hand embroidered vintage linen tablecloth, and I got it for £5. Crazy. So when I got it home, I added the pink linen border and then I quilted it and I put the year and everything in it so it would be my souvenir from that hike. Because, with one backpack, you can't really collect a lot of things for souvenirs. So that is the studio. I'll take you around to what I can see when I am quilting. So from a different perspective. And so from this corner of the room, you can see that's my loft area. So I hung a bunch of quilts up there. And um, I just like a lot of color. And some of those quilts are very special. So, um, and Lynn says it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And For those of you who don't know the story about the quote, it's called, when my husband was building the barn and I knew I would have this accent wall, I could fill this accent wall with anything. And I was looking for a quote because quotes are really um, important to me. I was words are just really powerful, and I've always collected quotes as a kid, and I just have hung on to them. So just a minute, put this back on the thing. Okay, whew, we're a little crooked. Okay, so quotes were really important, and I could have filled that wall with anything. And sometimes some of those small choices can cripple me. And it took me literally months to choose a quote, which seems so crazy because it didn't take me long to choose any of the colors of paint. It didn't take me long to choose so many things about the barn, but that one quote was um, I had gone through so many things, what I wanted to put on that wall. And I kept coming back to dream big. It was so simple and it was so easy. And it became what I chose because it was so true. And so I am reminded of that all the time. And my first line of fabric is called Live Boldly. And there's a little quilt in that which says Dream Big and has the little flowers underneath because of that accent wall. And it's so true. I have always been a big dreamer and I was made fun of that. I was a daydreamer a lot, and I was ridiculed for that from my parents and other people because I always had to live in some other alternate reality to survive. But my big dream was to grow up and have a normal family, and I did that. And so all of this is just another big dream that was so big I couldn't let myself dream it. And as I think about the quote that I chose today, where you don't have to see the whole staircase, just the first step. And I think that that is very true because I don't think that I could have imagined all of this happening for me, or that I could have worked towards something this big. I mean, I thought about people who had just she sheds and how that probably was never going to happen for me. And now I have this huge horse barn. It's like beyond a she shed, right? So I don't know, as we think about this week and dreaming big and taking that first step on a staircase that we have no idea where it's going to go, I think about that. I would think about that in your own life, and what new goal do you want to set? Where do you want that next step to take you? And I think once we take that first step, uh, it just keeps going and going and going. I have no idea where any of this will lead still. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what doors will open for me, what the next big thing is, but I'm excited for the journey and I'm excited. And even if nothing else big happens, I feel like I've already accomplished so much and that I'm content in whatever that is. And if this just means that I get to continue growing my little homestead and having some bees and getting some goats and learning all of the things about nature, I'm totally fine with that. Like, I feel content with whatever comes my way. But I do like to learn new things. So there's always going to be something. And um, Donna says, thanks for the tour. And the Rooster Quilter says, a pink truck. I really wanted a pink truck, but we decided to get my husband a commuter car, and we have a Suburban that we just put a new transmission in and a new engine, but it's getting pretty rusted out. So I actually think that I'm going to take our old Suburban and paint it pink because that just seems like the more cost-effective solution, and it needs a paint job anyways, and he is not excited about that, but honestly, he has not been excited about any of the pink stuff that I have done, and he always seems to be wrong. So, um, I am just saving for that pink paint, and uh, so we'll see what my Suburban looks like. But the truth of the matter is, I like driving my Suburban. I don't go very many places. I pretty much stay in town. I just tootle around to go to the post office and the grocery store and pick up my plants. And so the Suburban actually works really well for me because I can store anything I want in there. And I don't, it, even though it's a gas guzzler, I just don't take it many places anyways. Um, so I think a pink Suburban is on our horizon. So yes. And Rooster Quilter says a Suburban is a truck in disguise. It really is. We we didn't have any problems until we had problems. It had like over 250,000 miles, but we used that when we were raising our kids. And I don't know, I'm just comfortable in it. I feel safe in it. I feel like, it's a tank. And so I love driving it. I love driving a big truck rather than a little car anyway. That's just how I am. I think that I I've also never been one of those people that needs to have the latest and greatest car. As long as it gets me from point A to point B, I don't care. I'm just not that person. So I never, as long as it just runs, like I need it to run and get me there safely. But I really don't want to spend my money on a car, honestly. I mean, unless I have to. And Sherry says, thanks for the tour. Glad to catch you live. And I'm a big truck girl too. Me too. I just feel safer in it. So it is 9:45. It is time to start our week. And I hope you all think about that quote. And I'm so glad that you joined me today. And just let me know if you have any ideas of other things that you would like to see. I'm glad to do that. I'll probably maybe take you on my little homestead of one of these tours. We're going to take the drone out and try to get some footage for some new intros on the YouTube videos, but I am trying to build that up. So we did have a YouTube video drop on Friday for Starlets, and I think this next coming week it is another good pattern. I'm trying to think of what it was. I can't think of what it was, but it's a good one. I'm excited for you guys to see it. So until then, next Monday, I'll see you live again at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for joining me. Bye.